Are you a team manager struggling to lead your team well? Have you been asked to lead HR, but it's your first time? Or are you an HR pro looking for your tribe? While We Were Working is the show for you. With quick tips and tough topics in 30 minutes or less, the Jumpstart HR team is here for you. So let's get into it. Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of While We Were Working. It is a show for busy people leaders out there, more specifically in small business, who are looking for tips and strategies to be better people leaders. But maybe you missed a couple things while you were working and clocking those billable hours. So I'm Joey Price. I'm one of the hosts here. We're also joined with Sommer, co-host and lead HR consultant over at Jumpstart HR. Summer, how's it going?
Joey, I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. First episode of the year.
Yep, that's right. And we've got a great one in store today, Joey, and I'm quite excited to dive right on in.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start with High Low Buffalo, and if you can explain what that is for those who are tuning in for the very first time.
I'd love to, Joey. So, High Low Buffalo is something that we do internally here at Jumpstart HR on our Slack channel. We do it every Friday. And this is an opportunity for us to interact and connect with our team. It's where we share something that was the high of our week, something that went really well, a low of our week, perhaps something that we did at home, or maybe we made a mistake at work. And then also Buffalo, which is really, it's kind of a wild card. It is anything at all that we want to share. And if you've listened to our show before, you know that this is truly one of my favorite things because it allows us to connect with our team and support them when something fun and exciting is happening, but also for those challenges in life. And then, of course, with the Buffalo, we're always learning new, fun, and exciting things about our team. So, Joey, let me go ahead and dive in. I'll share mine, and then why don't you share yours after?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, my high would definitely have to be that I had an opportunity to spend time with my family. We did lots of outdoor activities. For those of you that don't know, I'm actually in Southern California and in San Diego specifically. And we had the opportunity to go snowboarding in the Los Angeles mountains, fishing here locally, and then bowling on New Year's Eve. So it was a fun, exciting, packed week. And with all of that fun, how could there be any lows, Joey?
Well, were there?
No, there
No?
wasn't.
All right.
I mean, I think really, if I was to try to find one, it's just, of course, the COVID cases are going up, and so just
Yeah.
trying to find things that are still fun and exciting, but also looking to stay safe. So, with that, I'll take you right into my Buffalo, and I've been thinking about this and making small steps towards it, but I want to start a kindness challenge, Joey. So I haven't fully formed that idea, but I thought, this would be a great year to really impact others' lives just through interactions and building relationships and helping them cause that same effect in others' lives. So you'll probably hear more about that to come.
All right. Well, can't wait to hear about it and get behind it. All about kindness. I think I have a kindness rock that my oldest daughter did as an activity at the local library, where they just take
Mhm.
rocks and put some nice words on it. And she was two at the time, so she can't write, but someone else wrote something on there. But it sits on my in my study here.
Mhm.
My high is definitely the family time, and I feel like it's cheating because we've said that for like the past couple episodes, or at least I feel like
Right.
it. But in all reality, this is one of those seasons where we get to gather more often, and so I'm really grateful for that opportunity to have family over, to slow down, even if we all are sitting around with masks on.
Mhm.
Um, it's good to just be in the same room. with people. And I don't know about you, Summer, but do you have those family members that you may live 10 minutes away, but you don't see them until like the holidays? So you kind of get excited about that. So that was a high. Um, a low, no real lows this week. But the Buffalo is we had our first snow day in a really good while. Yesterday, we actually got about 7 inches of snow. For
Mhm.
some people, they may laugh and say that's no snow, but it shut school down for 2 days and
Mhm.
counting, and we got to go out there with the kids and have some fun, make some hot chocolate. So, if you're in the mid Atlantic and you also had a snow day too, would love to see your pictures on social media. Post it, tag us. Love to see how you spent that snow day. All right, let's get into our the meat and potatoes of our conversation. It's a session that we have called While We Were Working, and this is where
Mhm.
we talk about an article that's of importance to you as a leader in the HR space or as
Mhm.
a people leader in small business. And you want to pay attention to this, and we think it's
Mhm.
incredibly important. So we're bringing it to your attention because you might have missed it while you
Mhm.
were working. So, what is this week's topic, Summer? What are we talking about?
So, Joey, the article that we're talking about today was in Human Resources Director magazine slash website, and it was on the HR technology budget tripling in 2021. And I thought this was a really interesting read, Joey, and especially given your role in kind of the HR tech influencer space, I thought this would be an awesome topic for us to talk about today because it's really not only was it a stellar year in 2021 for HR tech, but I fully anticipate that it's only going to continue to grow. So why don't we dive on into the article, Joey? And I'd love to get your insight and your comments on, kind of what we're seeing and where you think it's going to go.
All right. Yeah, sure. So, this article was written by Gene Dondo, and I just want to talk about some of the numbers for a bit. So, HR tech spending increased 57% in
Mhm.
2021. And for those of you who have been in HR space for a while, you know that one of the hardest fights that you've had to fight, one of those biggest uphill battles that you've had to have, is technology to make your job easier. Um, but what we've seen with the pandemic and a lot of folks going remote, but also with the evolution of HR tech and what it means to the organizations, um, we're seeing more and more adoption of HR technology. I
Mhm.
just dropped the link to the article if you're interested in following along or reading later. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing
Mhm.
for the employee experience. It's a good thing for you as the HR professional, you as the small business owner. And I want to tell you why. Because I stand on my soapbox a lot and talk about how, um, in many instances, we use technology that is self-service, that we can get answers on demand, that we can order food from our bathroom, we can buy a car from a boat, we can FaceTime our kids up in the air. We can do all these things that with technology, but when it comes to the employee experience, it's like we go back to the dark ages of spreadsheets and heaven forbid paperwork. But this spend is encouraging. It shows
Mhm.
that not only HR is winning the fight, but executives are leaning in to say, hey, employee experience matters. Um, the technology is a benefit to not just the HR pro, although that's reason enough to invest, but it's benefit to the HR pro and the organization. And it'll be interesting to see how HR tech continues to make a play inside organizations. There's a HR tech; it's an umbrella word, but broadly speaking, it's just tools that help HR do its job and employees get answers. So Those are some of my initial thoughts. Summer, what do you think about the article?
Well, I wanted to share a couple of things as well, Joey, from the article and talk a little bit about them because I'm seeing this actually happen in real time with our clients. And it's a really exciting time. I agree with you. I've partnered with a lot of companies in the corporate space previously, and investing in HR tech is incredibly difficult. And when I think about that, this, kind of why this is happening and why it's happening now, clearly it's driven by, the remote work environments. And, to read the article and really realize the magnitude that there was an average of 10 systems that companies were using in 2020 in regards to like tech or HR tech, and that's already up to 16 in 2021. I
Yeah.
mean, that's huge. And when we think about what type of systems they are, I mean, certainly there's a wide variety, but for example, think about things like Slack and Teams and Zoom, which, yes, some companies were using, but now, Joey, I feel like every company that we talk to is using a combination of those and then some. So it's becoming more of the norm as opposed to just something that some companies are using.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, Summer, about Slack and Teams. These are tools that, surprise, they're HR tools. When we think about the 10 to 16 tools that employers are using these days, obviously you have payroll, you have your applicant tracking system, you have your HRIS system, but you have your performance management system, you
Mhm.
have your recruiting analytics software, you've got your benefits administration portal. You've got your
Mhm.
401k portal. You've got your employee recognition software. You like so on and
Mhm.
so on. There are all of these different tools and ways that you can spend on your team, and I love it. I love it. It's good to see that. Not only is there investment,
Mhm.
but also that there are companies out there that are solving or
Mhm.
attempting to solve work challenges. My only caveat that I will say, and that my bone that I have to pick with some tools, is that they don't always consult with HR subject matter experts or HR professionals on how to do something. And it gets them in trouble. One,
Right.
it gets them in trouble because they don't build a great product. But also, it gets them in trouble from a compliance standpoint. You know, it's
Right.
like if you ask an engineer to solve an HR problem, they're going to
Mhm.
solve it from an engineer's perspective. But if you ask an engineer to collaborate with an HR pro to solve an HR problem, then they're going to have a better viewpoint into it. So, as much as there are great softwares out there, there are some
Mhm.
that are struggling. Um, so I just want to say, if you're out there and you're listening and you're a software developer in the HR
Mhm.
space, don't
Mhm.
neglect the HR pros in the conversation, whether as testers or subject matter experts, because it's going to help you build a better product.
I totally agree, Joey, and you probably saw me chuckling when you're saying that because I feel exactly the same way, and it makes me actually think of a time and accrual system whose name I will not disclose, but clearly had engineers design the system without consulting with HR. And just one of the small accrual programming features that they had built in was uh, just so impractical, shall I say?
Mhm.
And just had they had that conversation, I'm sure they would have built it totally different. And so I agree with you 100% on that. And just to kind of close out this topic, Joey, I wanted to share one last tidbit and get your thoughts, and then really excited to dive into our consultants corner.
All right, let's
Uh,
do it.
Yeah, so the last kind of parting thoughts on this article that I wanted to call everybody's attention to is really the staggering figure that 62% of companies, Joey, increased their investment on talent acquisition tech in 2021. 62%.
I bet you I know
So
why.
I know
Go ahead.
why as
Go ahead.
well.
Go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about how difficult it has become to
Yep.
recruit top talent, Joey. So no longer were the methods and tech that was being used previously going to allow companies to compete. And so, I mean, I feel like we could talk about this as like a whole episode, but you think about artificial intelligence, you think about chatbots for maximizing efficiencies with like talent acquisition tech strategies. Those companies that are leveraging that technology are going to win, Joey. They're going to get to the candidates first, they're going to capture their attention, and they're going to have the best opportunity to staff with that top talent. So if you're not part of that 62% in 2021, I definitely would recommend that you're part of the outstanding group for 2022.
Yeah, Summer.
Mm-hmm.
We see it day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that when I'm talking with prospective customers, I mentioned that we offer recruiting as a part of our package, and they're like, "Oh, really?" Because we have three positions that we're
Right,
actively recruiting for, and it's not going so well.
right.
So you're absolutely right that the spend is because there is a need to get really great talent, and I don't want to say that people are throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that people are investing and making the wise choice to invest where
Mm-hmm.
they may have held off previously and said, "Oh, we're going to only post on one job board," or
Right.
we're going to try to get referrals, or we're going to just try to see who's in our network. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we will even have some customers sometimes who will try to do it on their own, and
Mm-hmm.
then 3 months later, we're on a call talking about, hey, we need to pick up the pieces because either the hire wasn't right or
Mm-hmm.
there's something that we have to come in and intervene for.
Mm-hmm.
So you absolutely need to be looking at this as a leading indicator of like it's time to level up your recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't feel comfortable with the talent acquisition software landscape, or if you don't feel comfortable with the team that you have to do
Mm-hmm.
recruiting, you should definitely reach out and talk to us. You should talk to us at Jumpstart HR. You can visit our website at jumpstart-hr.com. I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat box here. But let's go ahead and jump into our next area, which is Consultants Corner. And Consultants Corner is the time where we get user generated questions. So listeners chime in, customers chime in about topics that they want us to cover in an episode. So we don't hold anything back except names sometimes to
Mm-hmm.
preserve the innocent or to protect the innocent. But this week's Consultants Corner is all about employee classification.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is all about whether people are being classified correctly as employees or contractors.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the top of the year. A lot of companies are considering moving folks from 1099 to W-2 or bringing new talent onto their team, whether they're deciding to do that as contractor or employee. And it's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So, Summer, can we go into this a little bit? And what are some things that people need to know, or what kind of prompted this topic this week?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're not going to go into this one just a little bit, Joey. We're going to dive in and cover a little more than we typically would. And this topic was brought up because when I was thinking through the last week of the items that we consulted with our clients on and looking for recurring themes, I think that I could start a list, Joey, of like the top 10 the top 10 or 20 common challenges or issues that companies have. But often when we're working with a new client, they'll say like, well, hey, like, where's my biggest risk? Like what could cost me the most? And I'd have to say that this is definitely one of them. So it's not a single client specific problem, it's a multiple client specific problem. And so I thought that this would be a great topic to share, as you'll hear in just a little bit with some of the stats that it's more common than you might think. So if you were to ask me, Joey, like, what's the one thing that most small businesses struggle with, I'd say it's misclassifying contractors. And I think that this happens because, well, a variety of reasons. So one is just not knowing any different.
Yep.
I think some business owners just don't know that they are misclassifying, that they can't do it. Then, of course, there are those who say, well, I know that what I'm doing is wrong, but I can't afford to pay them as employees. And so I'm going to take my chances. And then I think there are those that understand that there are some criteria and they make their best attempt, but they still get it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here's a fun fact, Joey. So ADP Research Institute, right? So, ADP, big mega payroll provider, put
Yep.
together some data and said that more than a third of mid-sized businesses, Joey, have actually been fined for not complying with that.
That's interesting because you would think that misclassification is like small ball, right? You
Right.
would think that it's
Mm-hmm.
smaller mom and pops that aren't getting it right,
Mm-hmm.
but the mid-sized firms, like the
Mm-hmm.
500 employer and larger firms, are getting fined. So clearly, it's a big deal. Clearly, it's
Right.
something that's on the government's radar that we need to pay attention to and spruce up. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a big deal.
It certainly is. And for those of you that may not understand what the term is or what we're talking about, I wanted to kind of back up just a little bit and explain, just so that everybody can follow along. And so when you have workers, you can either potentially classify them as a contractor, and those are 1099 workers. They are not W-2 workers, which would be your employees that are actually being paid through your payroll with payroll taxes coming out and so forth. So there's a different classification. And so sometimes what happens is companies will classify their workers as contractors or consultants. That word is generally used interchangeably. And what that means is that they are not technically an employee of the organization. And so to dive in just a little bit deeper, like I mentioned, why companies do that. Sometimes they do it willfully or by mistake, but
Hmm.
sometimes it's to avoid all of the additional expenses to the company that come with having them on their payroll. So that's just a little bit of background on that.
Excellent, excellent. So, well, did you want to say some more?
I do. I have so much I want to say, Joey, but I don't want to steal the show. But as you can tell, this is something that
What?
I'm super fired up about.
Summer, you can't steal the show. You're one half of the awesomeness. But
Okay.
I'll go ahead and I'll just kind of paint the picture for the small business
Mm-hmm.
employers that we see all the time, and the idea of classifying folks as 1099 versus W-2, a lot of times, I'll go bigger picture on this, and then we can go Summer to your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. Um, if you are classifying folks as independent contractors because you don't believe you can afford to make them W-2 if they are rightfully W-2 or should be W-2, um, I would challenge you to look at your pricing structure, look at your
Mm-hmm.
business model, and see where it isn't making the mark. Maybe you could charge more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's overspend in another area,
Mm-hmm.
but all factors and levers of the business tie into your P&L
Mhm.
and your human resources strategy is one that absolutely ties into that.
Mhm.
So, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about that who may be wondering how to make all the pieces fit. But
Mhm.
all that to say, maybe 2022 is a year you raise your prices and you get the
Mhm.
people, rightfully categorized.
Mhm.
So I just want to throw that out there because it's the new year,
Mhm.
and there's that saying that says know your worth and add tax. And I think that there's a business out there who just needs to hear, maybe they're undercharging,
Right.
and the market can bear
Mhm.
more payment. So
Mhm.
Summer, I'm gonna stop talking. You go ahead, cover the next steps, and we'll drill into a little bit more.
Sounds good. I think one of the questions that I'd be asking myself if I was a business owner is, can I afford to pay the fines? And if the answer is no, and or that it is your desire to comply with the law, and those are the companies that we work with,
Wait,
you
Summer,
know,
wait. I wanna. You said something very important. Can I afford to pay the fine?
right.
Let's put proper context around what that could mean. So it could mean um, that there are damages that you have to go back all the way to when the person first started with that classification and when they
Hmm.
were first eligible for being W-2. And then on top of that, there may be a fine or a penalty. And then on
Hmm.
top of that, there may be like a 3x sort of
Hmm.
like, you know, um, payment there. So if you think
Hmm.
about every person that is misclassified on your
Hmm.
roster
Hmm.
that you can't legally defend, there's a 3-point test. I don't know if we're going to get into all that, but
Hmm.
if you can't legally defend it,
Hmm.
you got to think about the cost of not only paying the damages and fines to make that
Hmm.
person to make that one person whole, but
Hmm.
everybody on your team whole. Because the EEOC, the Department of Labor, is not going to go and say, "Oh, all right, well, this is an isolated incident, no harm, no foul." They're likely going to want to take a look at your payroll records. They want to look at
Right.
your bank statements, all that sort of stuff, to
Hmm.
see if this is an isolated incident or not. So that fine thing, so we can't just breeze past it because it's not like, oh, I'm gonna park at the meter and get the $30 ticket because I don't have time and I want to go in and meet my
Yep.
friends. No, it's a big deal. And when you think about small businesses and why they fail,
Hmm.
one of the big things, two of the big things are poor decisions around people,
Hmm.
but also fines and fees.
Yeah.
And this issue hits on both of those. So I just wanted to like set the table, the magnitude of this,
It was
and
a trick question, Joey.
what?
It was a trick question.
Yes, yes,
It was a trick question, for sure. But I definitely appreciate you chiming in really quick just to give you some insight into some of the scale of which these violations can cover. I mean, definitely this isn't everything, but from the like federal standpoint, Department of Labor, for each violation, you could be facing between 5 and 25,000 per violation. If your state has their own requirements, you could be fined by them. You can also have wage violations. So think about not paying overtime and or meeting minimum wage, not withholding taxes. Oh my gosh, Joey, the list goes on and on. I-9 violations, workers' comp, failure to provide required benefits. I could go on and on, but Joey, the number one reason why I would make sure that I'm not misclassifying is because I have this saying, which is I look horrible in orange and black stripes,
yeah,
Joey. There's potential jail time. So if that's not enough reason to get on board with doing it right, I don't know what is. Um, I wanted to chat, Joey, really quick just to give some substance around each classification category. So maybe we could talk really quickly about the federal, like, kind of key identifiers for what constitutes an employee versus an independent contractor. You want to take those, and maybe we'll
yeah.
we'll split them up.
Let's do it. Let's do it. And while I'm
Okay.
thinking about that, we'll go ahead and as a resource, we'll link this. There's like a PDF, it's Department of Labor PDF.
Hmm.
We'll go ahead and link to that on our website,
Hmm.
so that you can go to our website, jumpstart-hr.com. Look for this item. We'll make it very easy to find, and
Hmm.
then you can go and see how you're doing.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's go through it.
Sure thing. So, thinking about like what meets the basic criteria of an independent contractor. So they're typically somebody who's running their own business. They generally get paid at the completion of a project, although that's not always the case. But the big one is that they provide all of their own tools, materials, and equipment. And we see a lot of our clients getting in trouble with this because they're providing, say, a laptop, a cell phone, um, those types of items. So that's definitely an area to look into. Independent contractors also work with multiple clients, and that they have the real what I call control, Joey,
Yep.
the real control over the work that they're doing, how and when they're doing the work. And so that's very different than an employee. Joey, did you want to take on some of the highlights of what it looks like as an employee as opposed to an independent contractor?
Yeah, I do. And what looks like as an employee is it's loading on my thing. Oh wait, no, I've got it right here. So when you're an employee, you are this is live television, y'all. But when you're an employee, you are working for someone else's business, and so what that means is someone else dictates when you start, when you stop, how you do your job, the tools you use to do your job.
Mhm.
Um, that is one of the primary markers for whether someone is operating as, because that's the big thing, right? It's
Mhm.
not what you call a worker; it's what they're operating as
Mhm.
and what their duties, tasks, responsibilities um,
Mhm.
say in action.
Mhm.
The other thing is that they're paid hourly salary or by a piece rate.
Mhm.
um, so, that part can be tricky, right? Because someone may say, well, I've got a 1099 contractor on an hourly, hourly rate.
Mhm.
Um, that can be okay, but you have to tie that into how, like these other stipulations of how they
Mhm.
do their work, when they do their work, who's in control of their work, so on and so forth. Um, and that means that they, typically work for one employer.
Mhm.
There's a continuing relationship with the employer, so there's the expectation of, I'd call it indefinite,
Mhm.
at will
Mhm.
employment. um, not not like, hey, your project starts and stops on these dates,
Right.
or um, we will give you work, we will assign you work as a freelancer or kind of on a retainer type of thing. You work for one employer. The employer decides when and how the work will be performed. So
Mhm.
the employer is going to tell you, hey, you need to go to this location. You got to use these tools. You got to clock in by a certain time. You got to, report this. You got to do that. Um, so there's the owner, like who owns the work and who owns how the
Mhm.
work to be done, and the employer assigns the work to be performed.
Mhm.
So that's the typical relationship of manager to employee. So,
Mhm.
the government attempts to do a good job of explaining, these differences, but I get it. It can be tricky, and sometimes you may want to err on the side of, I'm gonna try to fudge this over here.
Mhm.
But you should have a sober look at those differences to see
Mhm.
if you're actually in compliance or not, because Summer has already told you the fines, the fees, and the potential jail time. And I used to say I don't look good in orange, but if you're watching on LinkedIn, I think I look pretty good in this orange polo, but I don't look good in the orange jumpsuit. So I also have to, as a business owner, look at my own team.
Mhm.
And Summer, it's interesting to me. We had this conversation last week, and you had mentioned, like, Joey, you're very trusting of like how of who gets to do the work, you
Mhm,
know, and part of that is by design
mhm,
because I have to be.
mhm,
If there's an instance where independent contractors are or freelancers are coming to support us on engagements,
mhm,
I can't dictate, that sort of stuff. So
mhm,
uh, you do have to make it work for your organization, and we can help you. And no two organizations are alike.
mhm.
And You can reach out to us at jumpstart-hr.com to get a consult and get your HR in order for 2022 and beyond. Summer, what else do you have to say about this topic?
Sure thing, Joey. Well, I think we covered quite a bit in the amount of time that we had today, and just wanted to build on what you're saying, and that is to just to be aware that even if you think you've got it right, if you haven't consulted with an HR pro consulting firm or legal counsel about your classification, I definitely recommend that you do that, and to also be aware that we talked a little bit about the federal kind of guidelines for these classifications, but to also be aware that some states, specifically like California, has their own ABC test that these individuals have to meet all of the criteria for. So just please know that this can be super complicated, but that we have experts here at Jumpstart HR that do this work every day, help convert companies that have independent contractors that need to convert them to employees and all of the other factors. And we'd love to chat with anybody about helping them do this for their team as well.
Yes, we would. We'd love
Mhm.
to help you. And if this episode has helped you or inspired you in some way, why don't you share it with your colleagues, share with your friends, and head on over to our podcast that you can get on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeart, Audible, all the places where podcasts are consumed. And go ahead and subscribe and follow and leave us a 5-star review. Tune in next week. We're not going to tease the topic. You got to show up so you can know what it is. But tune in next week. We're going to have another exciting conversation about small business HR and topic that you missed while you were working. So, Summer, thanks for another great episode, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you. See you then.